Hello, hello. This is Taylor Ursula of That's So Pisces, and it's time to talk about our Aquarius new moon. So let's square everything and check it out. So this new moon in Aquarius takes place at 20 degrees on Friday, February 9th at about 3 p.m. here on the West Coast. Now, we mentioned this in the Aquarius season forecast, but this is a new moon taking place a day after the sun comes through to square Uranus. This means that as the sun prepares to meet the moon prepares to meet the moon will also enter into that same square just hours before it meets the sun at 20 degrees. Now, this moon happens on a Friday, which is the day ruled by Venus. Venus will be coming through from Capricorn to trine Uranus on Tuesday, the day before the sun comes through to square Uranus, the day before the moon comes through to square Uranus. It's a very Uranian time. And it's worth noting that now that Mercury is in Aquarius, Mercury will also be coming through to finish this square as well. Let's add to this the flavor of Pluto, who is now in Aquarius. And this marks our first Aquarius new moon with Pluto present. Even though we had Pluto here last year for about 3 months, Pluto didn't make its way into Aquarius until March. And so we had just passed Aquarius season, and we didn't have Pluto there until Pisces season. So the first thing that the moon does upon entering into Aquarius, as it does on Thursday, is to meet with Pluto and to pass through this same Plutonian threshold that I described the other planets moving through in the Aquarius season forecast. So the sun moved through this point. The sun and Pluto really moved into Aquarius together, technically. So they sort of ushered each other in. And we have had Mercury now pass over this point. And so the moon will come through and do this too. And as Venus and Mars later move into Aquarius in a couple weeks' time, they'll also meet up with Pluto too. So we are kind of in the middle of a conversation that was opened up by the sun at the beginning of the season that will now gain some emotional clarity around with the moon coming through to make this conjunction, and that we've already had some sort of mental processing with Mercury making this conjunction a few days ago. And in fact, the next stop for the moon is to meet Mercury at 5 degrees. So there might be some catching up that these planets are doing around this conversation happening with Pluto. We're picking up on some of what the sun opened up in that conversation. So Mercury coming through and making that conjunction, kind of helping us start to process perhaps some of what was illuminated by the sun's conjunction to this planet, the moon coming through and then providing some, again, emotional information about how this is all showing up in our world and what this is asking us to take a deeper look at, which is very much what Pluto asks of us in these meetings. The moon then enters into a square to Jupiter in Taurus at 8 degrees. So there may be some reaction that we have to this deep kind of pervasive thinking that we're pulled into at this time. Ultimately, there's something within us that we're becoming familiar with, that we are maybe awakening to, maybe something long dormant, maybe something that never had an access point before now. And so with all these planets activating these depths, remembering that we're in a strength year, so we're talking all about those kind of subconscious processes, those gut reactions, those instinctual points, very Pluto themes, remembering that we are just getting to know what's in here that needs our attention, right? It's only February, we've just started this year. So we're just getting a taste of what is within us that we want to pay more attention to, that we need to pay more attention to. So this square to Jupiter then may be some question about what all of these pervasive things that are surfacing mean about who we are and what sort of role we play in our communities, how others view us, how we view ourselves, what we think our role may be, or like our value, how we see that evolving, right? This is Jupiter in Taurus, so hanging out in the realm of Venus, who's in Capricorn, being ruled by Saturn, who's in Pisces, being ruled by Jupiter. So we're back to our kind of trifecta here, this little chain of command that's happening, but they're all able to see each other right now, which is really helpful, much more helpful than it has been over the past few months. So we might be downloading a lot, upgrading a lot within ourselves. And Jupiter in that square may feel like it wants more. It wants to maybe step into a bigger sense of self. It wants to learn more, right? Jupiter shows us where we are hungry for knowledge and how our sense of morality might be evolving, right? How our sense of community is changing now, and kind of getting a sense of what that means to us moving forward. Who are we? Maybe we become a little bit bigger than ourselves in this moment as we are taking in all this information and processing. The moon then makes a sextile to Chiron and subsequently the North Node in Aries, hanging out at 16 and 17 degrees respectively. And this is how we start our Friday. Now, a note here about Chiron and North Node, they are in a tight arrangement right now. We are anticipating their conjunction, and that conjunction will take place just a couple days after our first quarter moon in Taurus. So we'll talk more about that conjunction a little bit down the line, but know that we're already feeling the effect of this. We are already feeling this kind of instability around this wound. We may be really fidgety right now and really anxious about some parts of our lives where we're not able to kind of take the lead on something that we think we would be really good at. We may have some really good ideas right now. We may have some really good strategies, Aries, really good approaches, and we're kind of being blocked, maybe that Chiron energy of like, why can't I move forward with this? Why am I not getting the permission to do this? Why am I not, finding kind of the doors opening for me to step in and provide this? That might be triggering some older feelings around those urges to kind of lead or initiate and being blocked or being denied. And the North Node is this unstable point. That's what's bringing in the instability around it. So it feels a little bit chaotic right now. We're going to feel sensitive, tender. And when they finally meet in just a week and a half or so, we'll definitely get some sense of, I'll use the word clarity here in terms of maybe what kind of meaning we can make of this in terms of where we're going moving forward, resolving something from the past. Again, some feelings of instability around that as we integrate those things, but we are feeling it. The moon coming through and making this sextile to both these bodies may weave some of that narrative into this Uranus new moon, may be bringing up some reactions to that sun square, right, to Uranus that's happening just before. And so we might feel like we need to break out of something. We might feel like we need to be free of something. We may feel like suddenly we are done. If there's some situation where we are being blocked in that manner, then that might be something that's kind of up in the air for us right now, or on the table to be kind of parsed out and made sense of at this time. Especially since the next aspect is the moon squaring Uranus at 19 degrees. So whatever that sextile is, it is a supportive aspect, but again, those bodies are so close at this point, and they are a source of instability and unpredictability right now, as we're seeing what their conjunction is sort of illuminating for us in terms of our soul's journey, which is the North Node's significance. And so that square to Uranus, then right before the moon meets the sun, might really be a trigger point for us. What this is going to look like for each of us will depend on where this is happening in our charts. But recognizing that there's our square happening at the same time as this conjunction means that what's happening in one part of our charts and the Aquarius part of our charts is impacting and being impacted by what's happening in the Taurus part of our charts. After the moon meets the sun, we have a 14-hour void, of course, which means that the moon has no more appointments on the schedule. We are tired. That square is sort of a one and done. We are severing something, maybe breaking something open, and then we're good. Like, we are walking away. There may be something opened up at this moon that isn't necessarily processed right away, isn't necessarily easy to relate to other parts of our chart. Again, the moon is done having phone calls. The moon is off the clock. And so we're not necessarily going to be able to start anything after this new moon begins, right? In that immediate time. It won't be until the moon enters Pisces and meets up with Saturn, perhaps, that we start to really feel the weight of what's been kind of cracked open through Uranus, as well as getting a sense of what the consequences may be, or how what we've opened at the new moon is going to take shape over time, right? So we may have a little bit of suspension after this new moon, where we are just with whatever's just happened. We're just sort of soaking it in, and maybe even just resting afterwards, right? Depending on what it is, we might be confronting something at this time that's been stagnant. So just getting a little bit of that downtime afterwards, and being able to regroup before we kind of have to put something else into play. Okay, we're going to go ahead and pull some cards. We will begin this new lunation cycle. So we're starting from scratch. There's no recap, and we'll get a sense of what is being opened up at this time. So stay tuned. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. So it's a new moon, it's a new cycle. We are starting with a clean slate. And just a reminder that if you'd like to pull along with us, you can head to the website in the description, priestessbaby.com/shop, and download the free PDF. Okay, so we are looking at a cycle that begins for us now. What is being cracked open? We are looking at what has been cleared away to allow for this shift. Maybe it's being cleared away in real time with this Uranus square. What this new cycle may look like as it unfolds. What are we going to see as this cycle begins to take shape? And how we can ground into our ideas and intentions now. I kind of just added the word into. How we can ground our ideas and intentions, or into, depending on what they are. Okay, so we're going to go ahead, little card, ASMR for you. All right, and okay. All right. So, a cycle that begins for us now. Oh, that's nice. Okay. We've had some, I'm hesitating to use any, negative words to describe some of the other lunar cycles we've experienced, because
you know, some cycles are more tumultuous or more complicated than others. And I don't want to say, that that's bad or good. It all just is part of the cycle. So we've been going through some cycles that have been kind of bringing up a lot of grief, bringing up some of the leaving behind, bringing up some of the difficulties in the choices we're making. Um, I know we started our Capricorn new moon cycle with like a bit of grief. I believe we saw the Five of Cups hanging out there. So maybe that's the wrong cycle. Maybe that was the Aries first quarter moon. Anyway, we've been looking at a lot of tough cycles, and it's really nice to see us seeing a cycle that starts with something that is generally pleasant. The Four of Wands is this sort of moment of celebration. And it's not just the celebration itself. We may see that more in the Three of Cups, for example, in terms of kind of what is felt emotionally in those moments and kind of what we're doing. We're connecting with people in a celebration. We are sharing something in a celebration. We're being witnessed and in being celebrated, right? And so this may speak more to the to what is established through that celebration, or perhaps what is being established to house this celebration, right? So we are kind of building a foundation that's going to hold something moving forward. So we are kind of celebrating the establishment of that foundation, of those kind of four walls. We are feeling rooted and grounded in something that is supporting passion, right? That fire energy, that wand energy is our heart, is our life force, is our passion. And so we are kind of building like a like a little fire pit to hold the fire, right? And that in itself is cause for celebration. We have established a place for this thing. So I often think about this as, and maybe this just says more about me, but this says a lot about like home, or establishing like a space where we are allowed to be passionate and kind of to hold our hearts a bit. All right. So, before this, we have the Three of Wands, where we are sort of in search of, we are wandering, we are finding something, we are seeking something. And so here in the Four, we have kind of gotten somewhere that we maybe like and want to anchor around for a bit. Okay, so, all right, neat. Maybe let's look at this being a bit reversed, and we can think about, what does this look like for me? Maybe we are not experiencing this sense of, home, hearth, harmony, etc., space for my real passion. And maybe we are, the word I wanted to say was like facing or like confronting, and that felt really aggressive. Maybe we are confronting that with Uranus, right? Uranus is an aggressive energy, so maybe that wasn't, maybe that was not just a fluke, but it might be, we're confronting that. We're taking a look at that. We're at least turning inward and reflecting on what that feels like for us and what that's bringing up for us at this time. And as we do so, we are then opening ourselves up to wanting that and acknowledging that we want that. And that is a beautiful way to start a new moon cycle, because the first part of having is acknowledging that we have that desire, that we want that. So we might be thinking about what this looks like for ourselves. We might be getting clear on where things are out of alignment in this sort of idea that we're talking about here, and then just getting a sense of what it's going to mean, what it will take to have this. Okay, so what if I'm aware of the fact that this is not where I thought I would be, or this is not what I envisioned for myself at this time, being this way, then what would it need to look like for me to feel connected to this idea right now? Okay. What has been cleared away to allow for this shift? Oh, okay, cool. So we have more fire, which feels Uranian. and all that Aries activity happening. So the Two of Wands here, we've cleared away the planning, perhaps. So if this is upright for us, or like if we feel ourselves moving into this direction now, if we are seeing this energy show up for us in real time, then how we got here was by moving past the planning stages. So that's kind of nice to see, like, okay, we outlined what we wanted. I outlined what I wanted. This feels like a we energy. This might be a me energy. So I outlined what I wanted, or we outlined what we wanted, and we kind of drew up the map. We got clear on the destination. We identified what we wanted to experience, and that helped us get here. If this is reversed, then, and we're sort of more in the recognition state of, this is not what I want home to feel like, or what I want this celebration to feel like. This is not my beautiful house. Then maybe we're here reflecting on, okay, so I am clearing away maybe some of the things I planned for at the time that I no longer want here. Maybe I outlined some destinations that I've arrived at, and it turns out I don't like it so much. I went wandering in the 3, and I'm like, all right, well, I have seen this, I have experienced this, and yet there is still more that calls to me. Maybe we are kind of getting clear on, or clearing away, a failure to plan for some things that it turns out we do want now. Well, I didn't know I would have wanted to make that stop. I didn't know to add that destination to my Google Maps. And so I didn't know, to plan for that. That was something that I maybe missed. Maybe we're recognizing some reversal here in terms of like, well, I failed to plan for that, or I didn't anticipate that. And so here I am at this place. Okay. All in all, even if we're in the reversal place of this, and I'm going to go ahead and say that maybe maybe we're all, or many of us are in some upright places in our lives and some reversed places in our lives, right? Maybe one area feels really good and solid, and we're like, oh, I'm really nailing it here, and this feels great. And then some other aspect of what we're experiencing is like, you know what, this part of my life needs my attention. Like, this is not feeling so good. So even if we're in some state of flux with this, these are really beautiful energies. And there's, let me not speak too soon, but so far, like, these are things that we are invited to, and like, to absolutely kind of intervene with and change. Okay, so what this new cycle may look like as it unfolds. Okay, here's this 5 of Cups. Didn't I just say, let me not speak too soon? I did. Okay, so, so these are really nice and beautiful and optimistic. And then here is the harder stuff, or the grief. But this makes a lot of sense. This is not surprising. Let's look at this. If we are in a recognition that like things are out of alignment, I planned for this and I didn't know I didn't end up wanting it, like when you order something at a restaurant and it turns out it's not what you're actually in the mood for. It happens. We're human. We don't know. And even if we are kind of like, well, I didn't plan for this, and like, whoops, it turns out I want something different, then we're definitely going to be identifying what it is those things are, and whether we are ready to shift them. Shifting things means change. Change means loss. Loss means grief. Okay, like change, even if it's good change, even if it's like, you know what, I am really ready to go after this thing and like make this thing happen, it still means leaving an old way of being behind, right? This may be that we are leaving relationships that are not living up to some of what we need here. This may mean we're leaving jobs or homes or dynamics that are not living up to what we want, and that will absolutely entail being in a state of loss, feeling something spill, having to go through a tunnel of uncertainty. Change, even when it's positive, brings up grief, okay? And if we're experiencing this in the upright position, if we are recognizing, hey, this new cycle is great, I'm recognizing that this is what I wanted and it's because I planned this, then perhaps we are able to recognize where we are making our way out of this tunnel. We have been in a place of grief, we have mourned what has been lost, and because of this new cycle that's opening up and this recognition, we are moving through towards the light. All right, so okay, and I think that's kind of maybe what the reversal of this would be. Let's look at maybe a second reversed interpretation, which might be if if these things are out of alignment and it's because we did or did not plan this, either way, this cycle may unfold and see us resisting some grief. Maybe we are in a state of denial about this. Maybe we are like, but it can't possibly be. And this might have us saying, oh, I'm really trying not to feel these feelings. I'm going to try to find any sort of like rhyme or reason to kind of like not face this because I'm not really ready to change these things that are not fulfilling for me. And that may find us in a place of resistance. Okay, and let's release any judgment about that because we're humans and of course we don't want to feel bad, awful feelings, okay? And this cycle may unfold in a way where we are brought to recognize where we're doing this. We might be like, oh, yeah, I've been avoiding this. Like, I'm actually maybe not happy because I've been in a place of resisting this. And I kind of need to go through the tunnel at some point. I can't keep avoiding it. Okay. How we can ground our ideas and intentions now, or into our ideas and intentions. Oh, fascinating. Okay. This feels really like the Neptune energy, and we're not necessarily in a place with a big Neptune influence, although I do feel like we have talked about some things starting to shift into sextile Neptune. So there's we'll see Neptune show up in we saw Neptune show up in our Sagittarius. No, we will see Neptune show up in our Sagittarius third quarter moon and also our Virgo full moon. So that might be where I'm thinking about that Neptune influence. Okay, so that kind of makes a lot of sense that we'll see Neptune in our upcoming lunations in a big way. And so we are seeing information about it now. So, yes, know that Neptune's going to show up in the full moon and in the third quarter moon because the moon is going to shift onto the mutable axis. So, we will be looking at where it's time for us to kind of shift our perspective, where it's time for us to release previous ways of being, where it's time for us to release all the expectations around like that came with being that person we were. Thinking about this chrysalis, and of course as we enter Pisces season, that will also be the sun then and the new moon hanging out with Neptune. So we are basically preparing for a very Neptunian astrological moment. Okay, so it makes sense that we're kind of grounding now by thinking about what this would look like for us. So what are we shedding? Okay, like when we go into the chrysalis, we are a caterpillar that is going to be fully dissolved, and that is going to like then tap into ancient like discs within our skeletal frame, and then we're gonna become butterflies. So what are we leaving behind? Who are we outgrowing? What part of ourselves is no longer us? What stage of our lives are we ready to to end, to evolve literally out of? And with that, like what gets lost in that process? Thinking about the caterpillar's previous form, like that no longer exists, but yet the like genetic programming still does and lives within it, right? And so that programming then knows how to catalyze this next cycle of growth. So like what's being activated in here? What would it look like to give yourself this space to go through this process? This is definitely this is obviously a major arcana card. This is the Hanged One for anyone who does not know that about my deck. I have renamed this card. But this is what this card represents in my deck. And so this is a Hanged One moment. This is a major arcana moment. We are not going to just be doing this in one lunar phase, right? This is going to be perhaps like, you know, again, shifting into our full moon and our third quarter moon later this cycle, and then opening up the Pisces new moon cycle. So this is going to span several weeks here, right? Crossing Aquarius season into Pisces season. So it makes sense that we can start to think about what this looks like and to get clear on what we are stepping out of and what needs to shift within us at this time as it speaks to all these other things we are acknowledging here. Okay, this is cool. I love that we're kind of getting the seeds for the narrative that's going to build. I love that. And so let me know how this lands for you in the comments. If you enjoyed, please like, share, subscribe. We will meet here next week to talk about the, what is it? Oh my gosh, I just, I just looked at this. What is our first quarter moon? It's in Taurus at 27 degrees. Okay, so we'll talk about that, and I will see you there.